Welcome to another edition of Rimshots with Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. I have all the way from Houston, Texas, Mr. Paul Crosby, and as we get into this, you're going to recognize him for sure. Paul, thanks for doing this finally, man. It took us a little while to get her going, but thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
So right out of the gates, people will know you from your previous band, Saliva, but you have a new project now. And when I say new or you say new, how new is the project?
We released our first record last year, so I mean, it's pretty new, I guess. Yeah, we'll be releasing a new EP this year. So yeah, I mean, we've been at it about a year and a half, but I mean, like I said, we just officially released some music last year.
And I mean, obviously, that was a little bit probably messed up because you're releasing. It's a little hard to tour with how sporadic things were with opening and closing and stops and starts. What did you guys do to push that album out to the public?
I mean, we hired radio teams, put it on the radio everywhere, pushed it to Sirius. It didn't get picked up this time, but we'll try again next time. Just did as much as we could in-house PR teams, every kind of internet show, anything we could do, and we had pretty good success being a new band no one's ever heard of. We got over 1 million streams on just Spotify alone, over 1 million views of the videos. Just building a brand, basically.
So talk about the band. Obviously, you named the band before we start recording, so do that. But who else is involved as well?
The band is called Cold Words. And it's actually me, my son, Zach Crosby, my other son, Sean Crosby. Then our bass player is Richie Hay, and Michael Freese is our second guitar player. Me and my two sons, kind of during the COVID lockdowns, actually, we were just decided to write some music together. I was still in Saliva and all that stuff. And we started coming up some really good material, and they just kind of started morphing. And we were like, man, let's do a band. What better band to be in than with your sons, So it's pretty cool. And everything just kind of morphed to what it is now.
Well, and you get 3 Crosbys and 2 other fellows, so that obviously helps to tilt the vote when things go down, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
How do you find working with your sons? I don't know how old they are, but I have a son that's in hip hop, and he's very he's like a sponge. Anything that he asks, he listens. And do you find your kids are the same way when you're working with them?
Absolutely. And both of my sons are adults. One's in their 20s, one's 30. But they were learning from me the whole, since they were little kids. They were both, running Pro Tools, recording equipment and all that stuff from their early teens and on. So actually at this point, I learned a lot from them, believe it or not. And it's cool because, they have a younger approach on music and what's more hip now and all that stuff. So it kind of helps me stay a little bit more on the relevant side.
So was your decision to leave Saliva because you had this new project, or it had just run its course and you decided that it was time to do something else?
Well, I have my management company, which is Paul Crosby Management, and also I run a record label called Pat Groove Records. Those things were keeping me very busy. And then, the band with my sons, I kind of had more of a desire to do that than do the Saliva stuff anymore. But also, it was taking a lot of time away from me running my businesses. For a long time, Saliva was just kind of doing weekend gigs and stuff. And then they decided they wanted to amp up and be on the road more. And it really just didn't work for me time-wise. And then on top of that, I wanted to pursue this new band with my sons. So it just kind of, canceled itself out, basically. We're all still good buddies and we talk all the time and all that stuff. But it's just, it kind of ran its course for me.
Well, it's always good to leave something in a good way because, never burn a bridge, because you never know when you might need to go and knock on that door again, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
So, and I want to get into the management company shortly here, because you and I have a connection to there, which I'll explain in a couple of minutes. But how long have you been doing that side of the business?
Well, I paid attention my whole career with all the business stuff because I knew eventually, the life of a musician is generally, there's only so much time, except for a handful of legendary kind of guys. So I kind of paid attention, and I think in probably about 2007, 8 or so is when I started kind of experimenting with helping out other bands, not really getting paid to manage, but kind of learning about it and actually helping bands, do things. But I think about 2016, 2017 is when I started basically going for it, like transitioning into this is what I'm going to do and what I want to do. Um, I've had pretty good success with it, and I get better and better every year, and I'm pretty happy with it. Making a decent living and helping bands, achieve their goals.
So a question because I like I say, I have this podcast, and locally here I promote different bands. I play myself, but I always get, how is it that you can promote other bands when you're still in the business? And that to me is kind of a head scratcher, because I guess in a way, there should be competition, but the same token, I've kind of always been taught if you help a whole lot of people kind of get what they want, you'll get what you want moreover, right? So how have you ever gotten that feedback from people maybe when you first started? And if you did, how did you kind of deal with that, and how did you answer that?
Well, I don't see it as a competition. That's for one. I just love music and I just love doing it. So to me, it's not a competition. But the other side of the coin is if you work with a handful of bands and they're all kind of different. So just because, for example, you're not going to be able to help every band achieve the same exact goals, because it's really up to the world and the fans how they receive things. And even I may push one band to certain radio outlets that they don't dig this band, but they dig that band. So it's not really it's I don't know how to explain it. You're not really locking yourself into a corner. You know what I mean? It's also about keeping your bands diverse. You don't want to just manage 5 bands that all sound the same and do the same thing. Then it's kind of gets tricky that way.
Great point. Last question for this segment. So, and it's kind of, I'm a drummer, you're a drummer. What is it about drummers that seem to, when they do this type of thing, have success? And I'll reference Paul Jerry from Extreme, who, for years and years and years, when Porno Graffiti came out, my first thought was, wow, you're allowed to actually groove as a drummer. Like, that album was amazing. He gets into the business side, and he just becomes this absolute behemoth, right? But it's kind of like he totally steps away, and he really seems to be loving life and whatnot. What do you think it is about drummers that maybe are able to, succeed in the other side of the business?
I mean, I can speak for myself and a lot of other drummers I know. We're really hyper focused individuals, and I think that comes from years of training all 4 limbs to like disobey each other and do completely different things at the same time. I don't know. I think we use a lot of brain computing power in our process of learning how to be good drummers, and it makes us hyper focused. I can speak for myself on that for sure. And maybe also in the business, drummers don't really get typically a lot of it's usually the singers are writing all the stuff and this or that. So we have a lot more time to pay attention to our surroundings and soak all that in. I mean, that would be my take on it.
Great. You know what? I'm totally on page with you there. I think what it is sometimes we have to work a little harder because we're the butt of everybody's jokes. And
Yep.
you know what I mean? Exactly. So we're going to wrap segment 1. We're going to come back segment 2. I want to talk more of the business side. I want to, anyway, we'll talk a whole bunch of things after this.